is said that life is a journey filled with adventures and miracles. I welcome you to this another segment of the Genz chat space where today we will see how some of those miracles came alive. I am Marissa Bailey. It is October, or Pinktober as many call it, where we bring greater awareness to breast cancer. Breast cancer is a commonly diagnosed cancer in women. In 2020 alone, there were 684,996 deaths from breast cancer globally. For this year, it is estimated that over 608,000 people will die of breast cancer. Morbid, I know, but today in the Genz chat space, we have two beautiful, special, and strong women who defied statistics and are now breast cancer free. My guests are Renee Evans Grant and Luana Harrison, both of whom will relate to our listeners their story about the will to survive. Renee and Luana, welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us.
Thank you, Marissa, for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's my privilege. Luana, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to talk a little bit about your moments leading to your diagnosis. I know you're a graduate of the St. Andrews High School for Girls and fresh out of high school on the verge of greater academic pursuits. Your life took an unexpected twist. So I want you to tell our listeners about your experience in high school and how you imagined your life would be like after high school.
Well, I think my experience in high school was almost like any other young lady going to an all-girls school. You know, it had its high moments and its low moments, but overall, I think my time at, St. Andrew High School for Girls was awesome. You know, after high school, I had a lot of dreams and plans. I went on to UTech for 4 years. I did business administration there, and after UTech, I migrated to the United States and spent some time doing more schooling at Nova Southeastern, and then going
It's my
into
alma mater.
banking. Nice. And then going into banking. And not too long ago, actually, last year, 2020, when this whole world was facing, the the pandemic, I actually got diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer about 2 months before my birthday.
Wow.
So that kind of changed my world and my perspective on life.
So basically, you were cruising in life. You did a first degree at UTech,
Yes,
migrated to the US, did a
yes,
master's at NSU,
yes.
right, in banking. So you
I
had
did it
big
in
dreams.
general management. Yes,
Okay, so you had big dreams of becoming this consummate financial advisor. And then
yes,
those dreams, recalculated or rerouted.
right. Correct. It was actually in February of last year. So it's kind of still the new year. So I had like plans, New Year's resolutions, everything written out, all my plans for the year, starting an events company, launching the company. I had a lot of plans for the new year.
And you said that this was 2 months before your birthday, and this happened in February. So you're born in the best month of the year, April.
Yeah,
Right,
yes, that's right.
right. So, Renee, I know your experience might have been a little different, but I want you to just share with us how you got to the point of diagnosis. I know you had already got married, you started your family, you became a mother, and in the prime of your life, when many mothers will be busy making much of their toddler and working hard to be that consummate professional and wife, you
Right.
had to make that U-turn. So walk us through the moments leading up to your diagnosis. And I'm going to get back to you, Luana, because we need to explore yours a little bit more.
Okay, well, first, so I was diagnosed in 2019. In 2018, my family and I, we moved from New Jersey to South Florida. our primary reason for doing that was to be, closer to family so that our daughter could grow up around her cousins and, etc. That was something that was important to us. So we decided to make that move from New Jersey to South Florida. And that move was just a total, move on faith, because I had given up my job in New Jersey. I had no job. And moving to Florida, I had to, find a new job, etc. Anyway, I managed to find a job within a month at the University of Miami.
Awesome.
And so, with a new move and a new job, you have to find new doctors and things like that, right? So in the following year, this is 2019, I think it's around February or March, I went in for my regular gyno checkup, pap smear, do the usual whole thing. And, she said everything was fine. And my doctor said to me, she's like, everything is fine, everything looks good. Make sure that when you turn 40, that you schedule your mammogram, right? Because 40 is the age that they start, screening women is a recommended age for screening women for breast cancer, right, at 40. And so I said, okay, great, fine. I was turning 40 that year in October. And so I was like, okay, so whenever I turn 40, I'll just schedule that mammogram. And I remember leaving the office, and the receptionist, he said to me, he's like, okay, I see a note here that your doctor says that you should schedule a mammogram when you turn 40, and whatever. And I said, yes, I remember, and I'll do it. And I just went on with life, the usual, go to work, take care of my daughter, etc. A couple weeks later, out of the blue, someone calls me from the UHealth system at University of Miami and says, I'm calling to schedule you for your mammogram. And I was like, what? Oh, okay. Already? And she's like, yeah, why not? Your insurance will pay for it. So why not just schedule your mammogram and get it over with? So I'm like, okay. So scheduled my first mammogram, right? And it's honestly only because she called me why
you
I did it then. Exactly. So, I scheduled the mammogram, went in, did it, not expecting anything was going to, show as an issue. I think maybe a week later, or maybe 2 weeks, I'm not remembering the time frame correctly, but I got another call saying that they wanted me to come back in to do a diagnostic mammogram and an ultrasound. And the reason was because they saw an area of microcalcifications that was concerning to them. So I said, okay, all right. So, I made, they made the appointments. I went in, I did the diagnostic, I did the ultrasound. At the end of the diagnostic mammogram, my radiologist tells me that they couldn't determine whether or not it was benign or malignant. And so at that point, they said, I have to come in and do a biopsy. So I scheduled the biopsy, went in. I distinctly remember it was a Thursday, and Thursday afternoon. And prior to going in for the biopsy, my radiologist, said to me, I because of your age, this is why we're doing it like this, because what I'm seeing, I'm concerned, but I'm very concerned that, there might be something there. And so we have to really, take a better look at it. So went in, did the biopsy. About 2-3 days later, I got the call. I was at work, and my radiologist called me And, he said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but, we did find malignant cells in the biopsy that we took. And so the next steps, and I mean, we're going to get into this, but, so after hearing that, he's like, the next steps is that we have to do an MRI because they needed to determine the extent of the disease. And because I had such dense tissue, which by the way is a risk factor that I did not know, because I have dense tissue, it's hard for them to see sometimes on the mammogram. The MRI is much more sensitive and they can see things clearer with the MRI. So they ordered me to to have an MRI done to determine the extent of my disease. And I think I'll stop there because
just one quick question that I want to put in. You said that you're married, right? Yep. You've been married for how long?
8 years.
And you've been a mother for how long?
7 years.
So, wow. So I haven't gotten that call from your radiologist to say, I'm so sorry. What was running through your mind at that time, considering that you have this young marriage going on, your husband and your daughter? Was running through your mind at that time?
Yeah, my daughter was, she was 4 at the time. And when I got the call, I mean, I was in shock. I immediately started crying on the phone. And, the radiologist is like, he's on the other line. And, it's kind of hard because he's not seeing me in person. This is all happening over the phone and I'm crying over the phone. And, I'm thinking, my first question to him actually was, what's my prognosis? Mm. And he said, based on the type that we're looking at, your prognosis is good. And so I said, okay. And I don't remember anything else after that in that conversation. But after that, my next thought was I have to call my husband and let him know. And which I did, and I'm still crying on the phone.
You were at work at this time
I'm
too,
at
so
work.
How was it, being in the office space?
I'm at work. I walked outside. I mean, if you've ever been on the campus of University of Miami, there's a lot of open space and greenery. So I walked outside. I mean, I just kept walking. I didn't know where I was walking to. I just kept walking, and I'm on the phone, and I have the phone in my hand. And, I think a million thoughts probably were going through my mind, prognosis, like, will I survive? What would happen to my daughter? What, all of these things are going through my mind, racing through my mind all at once.
Right. So, Luana, you said that you had stage 2 breast cancer.
Yes.
Right? But how did you get to that realization? I know Renee explained that, she had to do the scheduled mammogram because she was, on the verge of becoming 40. And so she was due to do a scheduled mammogram because that's a recommended age for women to do their mammogram. But you were young, you were 26.
Yes, 26, yes.
So what propelled you to, get tested? Were you feeling pains? Were there any signs?
My story is a little bit funny. Well, when I look back at it, it's a little bit funny. So it was about December 2019. And well, here in Florida, it doesn't get super cold, but like for Jamaicans in Florida, like it's cold enough.
Cold.
It's cold
I
enough.
know that too well.
So I remember driving home and it was just cold. Even though I was in the car, it was cold. And I don't know, for me, it's just a natural thing. Whenever I get cold, I try to put my hand somewhere warm. So I had put my hand in my shirt, like, in my breast. And I remember feeling something on my left breast, and I was like, oh, that kind of feels weird. But then it wasn't alarming because, as a woman, we go through so much with, our menstrual cycles. So I'm just thinking, all right, maybe it's that time of the month coming up. So, probably it's just tender for that moment. So I kind of just let it be. That time of the month came and it passed. And then I was in the shower and I felt it again. And I was like, all right, this really shouldn't still be there. So I
More
remember
than
calling,
alarming.
right. So I called my mom into the room and I said, all right, mommy, you feel something? And she
Mhm.
said, well, yeah, something is there, but you can just ask the doctor. So, all right. So I said, no problem. So January came around, and this is the time when all the doctors calling you to schedule your annual, your checkups that I schedule with my
Executive
gynecologist,
profile.
because I don't really go to the doctor, to be honest. Unless I'm sick, and I'm never ever sick. The most I'll ever have in life are cramps. So I'm never sick to end up at the doctor or anything. But I made my appointments and I went in January. Did my, pap smear and everything, the regular. Everything seemed normal. And then I mentioned to the doctor, because gynecologists don't necessarily check your breast.
Right.
That's not their go-to first. So, I mentioned to him, feel this lump, because it feels like a lump to me, but just, you tell me. So at this point, I'm not thinking it's anything. I'm just like, probably just one of those things that, your body does things.
Yeah.
So he felt it, and his immediate reaction was, oh no, you're young, you're fine. This is nothing. However, because you said something about it, I'll recommend an ultrasound, but you're young, I'm pretty sure it's nothing. So I'm like, okay, great. That's good to hear. I'll surely do the ultrasound. But now I'm saying, all right, perfect. This is nothing. I went to do the
How long
ultrasound
after
on
you did the ultrasound?
I went to do the ultrasound about a week after. We have a Martin Luther King, like a Monday holiday, and I
Right.
worked at the bank. So I have Mondays off. So the Monday off. So I said, okay, let me go do it. I went to get the ultrasound done. And I remember the nurse came back into the room after doing the ultrasound, and she said, the doctor wants you to do a biopsy. And I'm like, a biopsy?
Biopsy.
I'm like, no, this is where it was supposed to end. The doctor said it was nothing alarming. So this is where it was supposed to end, at the ultrasound. So I said, okay, at this point, I'm like, all right, I'll do whatever it takes just to be okay. So I went to do the biopsy probably about a week after, because they're quick on, getting things
Mhm.
done. So I went to get the biopsy done. First thing that kind of struck me when I went into that office was they gave me like a questionnaire to fill out, and everything was pertaining to like cancer history. And so I kind of got nervous. I'm in the doctor's office, and my belly started to hurt me, because I'm like, oh no, this doesn't look good. This doesn't
Yeah.
sound good. All these questions. And I'm here checking no to every question, because I have history of nothing, nothing going on. Anyway, I went into the room with the doctor, and the doctor said to me, Luana, I took a look at the ultrasound, and the characteristics of the mass really looks like cancer, but we're gonna do the biopsy to be sure. But I'm telling you this before we do the biopsy. And that's when I felt like everything in me just kind of started to shut down, because I was like, we haven't even done the biopsy yet. Like, I want some more hope. Let's not go there, because I wasn't prepared for this.
And you were
But then,
26. That's
yes,
the
I was
part that
26.
stands out for me. You're 26.
Exactly. And I have no history of it in
Right.
in
Because
my
I was about
immediate
to
family
ask
for
if
me
it
to
ran in your
think about.
family.
No. Well, okay, so at this point there's no history. So I have no history of it. Nobody around me, just regular hypertension, stuff like that. So I'm not thinking cancer at all.
Right. So
I've never been in pain.
right. So there are
Right.
no concerns about breast cancer
Nothing,
prior
no
to your
concerns,
appointment.
nothing at all. So did the biopsy, and the doctor told me I would get the results in a week. So I was also at work the Friday when the doctor called me. And I just felt in me that when he called me, I knew what he was going to say, because he was already saying, based on how it looked and everything. So I kind of already prepared myself that entire week for both sides of of the coin, basically. I wasn't trying to be in denial and say, oh, no, 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 I'm young. This is not it. I kind of prepared myself for both. I said, okay, God, it might be it and it might not be it, but I'm preparing myself for both. So when he called me on Friday, it still hurt, to hear, Luan, I'm sorry to tell you, but it is breast cancer. We caught it early. We're going to start you on aggressive treatment. You're young. You have a pretty good outlook. So, those are comforting words, but I feel like in that moment, nothing was able to comfort me. Like in that moment, all the emotions just came down. I was crying. Everybody at work came. They called my mom. They said, can you drive home? Do you want us to take you home? I said, no, I'll drive home myself. I cried the entire way home. I was calling my dad. It was really emotional because it was just, nothing I expected at this time in life. I just never saw this coming. So it really, got me hard.
Right. And you're an only child, or you had siblings that you had to
No, I
break
have
this news
two
to?
siblings. I'm the first, so I have a younger brother and sister.
So hearing your story would have probably, made them feel
Yes, and
depressed and
it's
sad and, okay,
right.
why
So
is this happening to my big sister? This is my hero,
right,
Why is this happening?
right,
So how exactly
right.
did you break this diagnosis to your siblings, your younger
So
siblings?
the good part about it is that my dad and my brother are medical doctors. So for
Okay.
them, they were on the train from the beginning. So it wasn't too alarming for them. They were just asking me the questions like, make sure you ask your doctor this, make sure you ask your doctor that, what are you feeling? They were more trying to be that
Yeah.
support
So you had that
medically.
medical support, right?
Yes. So, even though I know it kind of hit them emotionally, but they were super strong in terms of, all right, this is our field. We're going to help you to fight this, based on all our knowledge. My sister now, she's 17 years younger. So she's really young. So it really got to her more. She was really crying because in her head, like most people, when you hear of cancer, the first thing you think of, okay, this person's going to die. They're not going to make it. And they're gonna die a painful death. That's what people think when they think of cancer. So for her, she was just overwhelmed and she was crying. And I really couldn't comfort her in that, beginning, because I was a little bit scared myself of, okay, how is this gonna turn out? So it was a bit emotional in the beginning.
So we're at the stage now when you both are diagnosed with the breast cancer. So both of you got calls on the phone. So you weren't physically at the doctor's office when you were diagnosed and when you would have received the news, right?
Right.
And you've explained, what went through your mind, what you did when you got the news, you called your family. Did friends get factored into this, breaking the news, or was it confined to just sharing it with your intimate family members? I know both of you work, so you would have had to share it with your employers. But outside of your family realm, what did you do in terms of sharing the news with other persons who are close to you?
So that's an interesting question. So when I was going through the whole process of the mammograms and the biopsy, I didn't really tell anyone. I was the only other person who knew that I was having, going through all of that and having all that done was my husband. He was the only person. Until one day, my friend, she lives in Toronto. She called me and she said, "Ren, you've been on my mind. And I just felt like I needed to call you for some reason." And so I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yes, I just, felt like I needed to call you." So when she said that, I just pour out the whole story of what was going on to her. And then after I got the diagnosis, I pretty much kept it to myself because I was still trying to process it. I mean, outside of my parents and my husband, I mean, I was still processing it. So, I wasn't like going around telling a whole bunch of people. And then she reached out to me again that week and she said, any updates, like what is going on? And so, she was probably my first friend that I told of my diagnosis. And I didn't tell my other friends until until after I did my MRI and I visited my surgeon. And then once I got a full picture of what was going on and, what my diagnosis was and, got more details to that, then I started to tell more friends. But for me, it was processing. I had to process the information and kind of go at my own pace. So yeah, that's how that's how my friends found out. In terms of like my employer, I just have to say that my employer were so supportive and throughout that whole process. When I got the call from my radiologist and after I spoke to my husband, I went in and I spoke to the associate dean of student affairs because she's one of my bosses. And I told her, and she was amazing. She was, she said, don't get in the car to drive right now. Let's go go for a walk. Let's go get some coffee or tea or whatever. And then you go and you get in your car and drive. And, she kept saying, whatever you need, your health comes first. Your health is first, health and family, that comes first. So if you need to take time, if you need to, whatever you need, just you take it. And then when I told my other boss, the director of learning innovation and faculty engagement, he was the same way. He said, your health comes first. Just let me know what you need. We're here to support you, whatever it is that you need. And his boss, who is the VP of academic technologies at University of Miami, I was walking past his office one day, and he called me in, and he sat me down, and he said, Renee, I heard what is going on, and I just want you to know that whatever you need, we're here. If you need to take time, this is not an easy thing that you're going through. This is some tough stuff that you have to deal with. If you have to take a mental health break, take it, whatever you need. He's like, don't worry about work. You just need to focus on you and your health. So having that kind of support from the people that I work with was really greatly appreciated. And I just can't be more thankful for having that.
Right. And Luana, how did you break the news to your friends and how did they react?
Well, I'm trying to remember how I got my friends involved, but a few of my friends and, probably a few close family members. I remember the day I got diagnosed, I curled up in my sister's bed and I just kept hearing the doorbell ringing. My mom did not hesitate to let that community of people around us know that her daughter needed support that day. So that's how, most of them found out. Just that day of diagnosis, it was just overwhelming, I think, from my mom, and she just called those who she knew would support me, and they were there. So, my friends were there, a few family members came over, and they just came to like comfort me. I really didn't have to tell them, everything that he had got diagnosed. That was already done. My mom kind of already did that. So, they just came and they just poured into me and just kept reminding me, okay, we're going to be here. Let me know what you need. At the time, I was dating my now fiance, And it was hard for me to tell him. Well, he already knew like all the appointments and everything, but it was kind of hard for me to tell him because, in my head, I'm like, okay, we're not married. So, I don't want to put all this pressure on you because it's going to change my life. And, that was one of the biggest things for me in telling him, because I was like, all right, I'm already going to have to go through this. I don't want to pull another person through it emotionally, and then I don't even know what this journey is going to look like. So I didn't want to pull him along, but he was, super supportive. He was like, you didn't cause this on yourself. So, I mean, what kind of man would I be if I leave now? So, he was there, family and friends were there, two of my high school friends, like, were there when I was crying, they were crying, just showing their support. But yeah, it was emotional breaking the news to family and friends.
What
But
about your church family? Because I know you're a
so
Christian.
yeah, so interestingly, because I got diagnosed like literally right before they announced this pandemic, like I got diagnosed February 21st, and I think it was like the first week in like March that everywhere in Florida was getting shut down. So church got shut down before I was really even able to like pour out anything, and I felt like it was still a little bit early and sensitive. I didn't know what to say yet. So by the time I started like treatments and everything, and it was obvious that something was going on because I lost all my hair and, my features started to look different. I was home, so nobody saw me. So the church didn't really know until, like halfway through chemo when churches started to reopen. And then, I started to go back to church, and then they were able to see me. I really didn't say to them, hey guys, I was diagnosed with cancer. I felt like they just knew because, sometimes you can just look and tell. So they kind of just knew. So people were just encouraging. They really didn't ask questions about it.
What were you saying to God at this point?
So at the point of diagnosis, I kind of had I kind of had a moment where I was like, all right, God, I really don't know what's going on right now. But I trust you anyway, like I feel like you've made so many promises to me and this can't be it. Like, this can't be the end, but I have to trust you, I have to trust you because the end, so I have to trust you. I have to believe that whatever the outcome is, that you will receive the glory, even though that was hard for me to believe. I remember going into my mom's closet and just like crying. And I'm like, okay, God, like, I don't want to be selfish and tell you what I want, but I just want to live. But if it is, if this is it and I'm not going to live through this, just still receive the glory, even though that was hard for me. I was just like, I want to be at peace going through this. I don't want to, wake up every day or, not sleeping because I'm fearful that I'm going to die. I wanted to go through it in peace. So I just really asked God, like, please help me to go through this peacefully, no matter the outcome. And that was just me at the time.
Your faith was stronger than many.
Yeah, I tell I tell people all the time that the strength that I had, I didn't find it in my cancer journey. The strength that I had was strength I deposited before. It was the moments I spent in prayer before and the moments that I spent in worship before that I was able to draw on, because going through chemo and radiation and surgery, I did not have that same strength to pray. I didn't have that strength to worship like I did. So I really had to rely on, me reading the scriptures before and drawing on those scriptures, or me praying before and relying on those prayers.
Right. That's deep. You drew on strength that you had deposited prior in worship and in prayer.